you just launched the Rutgers channel. So we need to check in on Rutgers, how the channel's been, what it's been like, the reception you've gotten from Rutgers fans, other Big Ten fans. Tell us about that, and then give us your overview of Rutgers football heading into this Friday night special this week.
Well, thanks, Matt. As a New Jersey native, I certainly I do like Rutgers, and I've been thrilled to start the Rutgers channel. It's going great so far, and we're looking forward in December to an interview with Coach Greg Schiano on the show, so that should be exciting. Now, the season so far for Rutgers has really been a mixed bag. Rutgers starts out 4-0 and looks to be contending in the Big Ten and finally relevant in college football, but then suffers 3 straight losses: Nebraska 14-7, Wisconsin 42-10, and on Saturday they lose to UCLA 35-32. Rutgers is led at quarterback by Ethan Kaliamankis, who is, I would say, a mediocre quarterback. He's thrown for 1,337 yards, 104 of 195 passing with a 53% completion rate, 8 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. Real star of the Rutgers offense, Kyle Monongai, a Don Bosco prep graduate here in New Jersey, 154 carries for 845 yards and a 5.5 touchdown average. And Samuel Brown V, 40 carries, 201 yards for a 5-yard average. In the receiving core, you have Dymere Miller, 26 receptions, 349 yards. Ian Strong, 16 receptions and 269 yards. So they do have some weapons on offense, but they have faltered with 3 straight losses, in part because of injuries and in part because they ran up against teams that simply out-physicaled them. And at this point, Rutgers is at a crossroads, a big crossroads whereby this USC game is going to determine if they are going to continue on an upward trajectory or if they are going to stay with mediocrity. So we'll see this Saturday.
And obviously, as both a Rutgers fan and a USC fan, it had to be a real gut punch to lose at home to UCLA. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being, you could kind of see this coming. 10, what in the actual heck is going on? How severe were your emotions, were your reactions to the loss to UCLA?
Well, I happen to actually have been in New Jersey for the past week. I was visiting my mother, and I was about 40 minutes from Piscataway, and I watched as everybody predicted that Rutgers would steamroll UCLA. And I was the only one who said, not so fast, not going to happen. UCLA is going to come in there, and they're going to dominate in the trenches, and they're going to score at will. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. And although Rutgers was within 3 points, the score was much closer than the actual game indicated. And on this one, I hate to say it, I was right. UCLA comes out with the victory. Now Rutgers got to go to the Coliseum and face a better USC team. And I'm not thinking things are looking too good for Rutgers at this point.
So my general view of Rutgers, I haven't studied the program very closely, but, I talked to the editor of Rutgers Wire earlier this year, Christian Dyer, a good sports journalist in New Jersey. I don't know if you know him, but he said that Rutgers was recruiting line play, and that's the Greg Schiano way. Like, Greg Schiano wants to build his team on the front lines first and then build out to the skill positions. I'm shocked that Rutgers is allowing opposing teams to score in big numbers. And Wisconsin does not have elite offensive talent. And the Badgers were pretty much able to do what they wanted. And we know that UCLA doesn't have elite offensive talent. And the Bruins hang 35 in Piscataway. So, to me, that's the surprise. I'm not surprised that, with a mediocre quarterback, as you pointed out, that Rutgers is struggling to score. But I am surprised that the defense is giving up these big numbers. What do you think's happening? And why do you think the recruiting that Schiano's attempting to do isn't measuring up in the trenches?
2 things. 1, a lack of depth, and 2, injuries. Now, this is Greg Schiano's second stint at Rutgers. His first stint from 2001 to 2012, he took over after 3 years of Chris Ash, which, to say the least, were quite poor. The first 4 years of his first tenure were, let's say, very below average. But in his 5th year, he started to turn the program around and made it a relevant contender over the next 4 to 5 years. Now in his 2nd stint, he's once again in his 4th year, and he's again turning the program around. But it is still a rebuilding project. They lack depth, and they've had some key injuries, including to defensive back Flip Dixon. And as a result of that, they're thin on the defensive line and thin in the secondary. And I think as their schedule now is going into the toughest parts, UCLA, even though UCLA was 1-5, remember, UCLA was close at the half against LSU, and UCLA was close to beating a Minnesota team that defeated USC. So they were always a better team than their record indicated. But at the end of the day, Rutgers is still in a rebuilding mode. And while better, they're still not where they need to be. And that's why I think against USC, they're going to have another long day.
So what do you think is the matchup? I mean, so you obviously know USC well, just as well as you know Rutgers. So as you size up these two teams, obviously it's hard to be optimistic if you're a Rutgers fan after seeing a loss to UCLA at home. But if there is a matchup, either one-on-one or position group versus position group, that you think Rutgers can do something with to at least keep this game close and competitive into the 4th quarter, when we know USC has problems finishing the deal. And again, we'll be talking about that here at the Voice of College Football. If there's a matchup for Rutgers in this game, Adam, that offers a path to making this a close game, a game in which USC is going to slip on that banana peel late, what do you think that matchup is for the Scarlet Knights?
Kyle Monangai, their running back. He's tough to bring down. He runs with a lot of passion. He's strong. And I think USC's defensive front is going to have a problem containing him. I think Monangai is going to have a big day. The question is, can Rutgers throw the ball on USC's secondary? And Ethan Kaliamakis, with a 53% completion rate, 8 TDs to 5 interceptions, he's been hit or miss. And although he has a good deep ball, he holds the ball too long. He often makes bad decisions. And I look for USC to get a couple of interceptions in that game. But the biggest vulnerability is going to be, can Rutgers run the ball on USC, win the time of possession game, and ultimately limit USC's possessions and beat them in a fairly low-scoring game?
What do you think is the magic number for Rutgers in terms of time of possession? 35, 37? What do you think is going to get it done, or at least create a very, very close game at the end?
I think that they need to have 35 minutes time of possession, and I think they have to have at least 12 to 15 plays more than USC. I also think they need to take chances on 4th down and convert them at a 50% rate. And I think 3rd down conversions are going to be critical, because with Kyle Monangai and Samuel Johnson V, they're going to get their yards. So you're going to see a lot of 3rd down and short, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2. Those critical plays are going to make a big impact on who wins this game. And like every other game, it's going to be those little things in their totality that determines who comes out with the victory.